Okay, next let's set up some collision shapes on the level itself so that when Frogger exits the left or right of the screen or the bottom of the screen, that he dies and resets. So let's come to our level here and let's add, do we want an area 2D here or not? How did I set this up? Yes, so let's add an area 2D here. We'll call this walls area 2D. And under that, let's add a collision shape 2D. Let's turn on grid snapping here. So let's add a new rectangle shape for that grid area or collision shape 2D. Let's have this cover the left side of the screen. And we can duplicate that and hit W and drag it over to the right side of the screen as well. And we can duplicate that. And before we actually change the shape of this rectangle shape, let's make sure that we go in here, right click and hit make unique so that it doesn't affect the shape of our other collision shapes. So now it's a unique shape in there. It's its own resource. So when we change it, it won't affect anything. And let's actually have this line up properly here on the edges there. There we go. So for this wall area 2D, we can turn the layer off and we'll turn the mask to Frogger. Let's go ahead and add a script to our level here. Click back on our area 2D and let's connect to that body entered signal for the walls. And so if we detect Frogger, we're just going to call body.die. So Frogger will die if he touches the walls. Also, let's come in here. Let's add another area 2D. This is going to be the water area 2D. And we'll create a new collision shape on that as well. And let's come in here and make a new rectangle shape for this water. Bring it down in the corner here. Let's hit Q and let's adjust this. So this is going to take up, let's set this to a snap of 16 pixels. So this is each snapping to the tiles itself. Okay, so I want this to take up, actually, no, I'm gonna change that back to 8. Our tile map is a little offset here. So that's one tile. So we want it to take up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think 7. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiles. And all the way across. So this is going to be our lily pad area up here, and we'll have another collision shape for that in just a minute. But let's set up the water area 2D's layer and mask. Let's just have the mask be Frogger. And then we can connect to that body entered on Frogger, and we can also connect to the body exited. And so if we entered the water area, we're going to say body.isInWater equals true. And body.isInWater equals false. So now we can come into the Frogger script, and under process here, we'll say if is in water and current water obstacle is equal to null and is resetting as false, then we'll do die. So let's play this and test this out. So if we jump down to the bottom, we should die and then reset. If we jump over to the right, same thing, we should die, reset, left, cyan reset. Let's get over to the water here. If we're on a water obstacle, we don't die. And if we jump in the water, we die. So that's working just fine. Now we can go ahead and set up the lily pad scene. So let's add a new scene here. And this is going to be an area 2D. Let's name this lily pad. And let's add an animated sprite 2D to this. Let's create a new sprite frames here. Click into that. Let's click this adds frames from a sprite sheet and go to the lily pad section and add this lily pad sheet. It is 1 vertical and 4 horizontal frames, so we can select all of those and add that in. Let's turn the FPS to 1 here and have this autoplay on load. So that's not going to play in the inspector here. But that'll play once the scene starts. Let's also have a collision shape 2D on this and add a new rectangle shape to that. Have it match up with the corners of the lily pad. There we go. So let's name this Lilypad Sprite 2D. Then let's add another animated Sprite 2D. Top of that, and this is going to be the Frogger Sprite 2D. Once Frogger is actually on a lily pad. So let's add a new sprite frames to that. Click in there. Add from a sprite sheet. We'll go to Frogger here and add the Frogger Bob. And select all, add those frames. We'll have this autoplay on load as well at 1 FPS. And so when Frogger's on a lily pad, he will bob up and down with the lily pad. So we want this off by default. And let's access this as a unique name. Let's go ahead and save this under Lilypad. Save that. Create a new script here, Lilypad. And let's do this. Let's have a var is occupied as a bool equals false. And we're going to drag and drop this Frogger sprite in here. This is an animated sprite 2D. Let's go into the ready function. And in here, we're going to actually pass on that for the time being. We're going to set up some signals there in a little bit, but we can pass on that for now. So let's connect. Let's click on the lily pad here and let's connect to the body entered signal. And also, while I'm remembering this, let's set up its collision mask to look for Frogger. We don't need it to be on any layer. We're just having it look for Frogger here. So when it detects Frogger, we're going to say if is occupied is false. Or, you know, even a better way to do this, we'll say if is occupied is true, we'll just return. That way we don't need everything nested under an if statement. We'll say is occupied equals true. Frogger sprite dot visible equals true. And then we'll do body dot call deferred resets. So we'll call reset on Frogger, and we need to call this deferred. I'm pretty sure if we don't call it deferred, it's going to give us some issues here. Okay, so it should be that easy just to get the Lilypads set up. So let's go back to our level here and let's create node 2D. This will be Lilypads. And let's instantiate a child scene here of Lilypad. And let's move these, go one there. So on these lines here, if you have it set up 8x8, configure snap 8x8, put one there. We'll duplicate this and we'll skip one, we'll put one there, skip one, put one there, skip one, put one there, skip one, put one there. So those are all our Lilypads set up. Now we can come to our water area 2D and we can create a collision polygon shape, our collision polygon 2D here. So let's hit Q to have the select tool out, and we can actually choose our points that we want. Let's come in here. Let's have a point here. And I want to give these Lilypads a little bit of space. I don't want the collision shape to be right up on the Lilypad. Then you'd have to perfectly make it in like frame per or pixel perfect to make it in. So let's give Frogger a little bit of leeway around these Lilypads, so he can make it in from being like over here a little bit or over here a little bit. And we'll do that around all of the Lilypads. Give him a little leeway. Okay, and then we can just circle it back up and around and down. And so now we have that water area set up around all the Lilypads. And I'm actually going to come in here to the wall areas on this collision shape and just make this line up there on the edge. Okay, so now we have the Lilypads in place. So when we jump on a Lilypad, we're just going to set occupied to true, set that Frogger sprite to visible, and then call reset on our Frogger itself. Let's test that out. And our turtles are resetting instantly, so we gotta fix that next. It should stay submerged for a period of time. And boom, we jump on Lilypad. Frogger's now there, and we have a new Frogger down here to continue on. So that's good, and Frogger didn't die. Okay. So really the last thing we need to do gameplay wise is to have the turtles submerge and reemerge, so that when they go underwater, Frogger can't sit on them, and he can actually die. So let's come to obstacle turtle here. And let's create 2 timers. Timer and Control D to duplicate that. We'll have a submerge timer and a re-emerge timer. And let's put those up at the top here. Access both of those as a unique name. And let's come into the script here for the turtle. And up at the top here, we're going to have a const submerge time range as a vector2 equals vector2 3 seconds to 10 seconds. So this is they will submerge anywhere from 3 seconds to 10 seconds, and then the reemerge time range. Set this to a vector 2 of between 1 second and 4 seconds. So they'll stay submerged from anywhere from 1 second to 4 seconds here. Let's go ahead and drag and drop both of these timers in here as onReady vars and statically type these. And let's come into the ready function. And so because we're extending obstacle water here, if we go to obstacle water script, we're already calling ready here. So we wanted to call this ready function as well as do the stuff in our ready function. So to do that, we need to call super.ready, underscore ready. And this will call this ready function and this code here, and then we can continue. So we'll have our body entered and body exited signals set up. So we need that super.ready there to call that. So let's do submerge timer.waitTime equal to a randf range between our submerge time range.x and our submerge time range.y. And the same thing for our reemerge timer. Set that up to be between reemerge time range.x and reemerge time range.y. And then we will go ahead and call submerge timer.start. And before I forget here, let's go to our submerge timer here and turn one shot on, and our reemerge timer as well. Turn one shot on that as well. We only want these to run once. If we didn't turn one shot on these, they would just run constantly and be calling the animations that we're about to make over and over and over. We don't want that. So let's come in here and on our submerge timer, let's connect to that timeout signal. And on the reemerge timer, let's connect to that signal as well. And we'll just leave those as pass for the time being. Let's add an animation player here. We can put that up towards the top. Let's access that as a unique name and drag and drop that in here as well. Animation player. So let's create a new animations. Come down here, have the animation tab open and click new. This is going to be called submerge. This is going to be 4 seconds long because our animated sprite 2Ds are playing at 1 FPS and they have 4 frames. So that'll take 4 seconds to play out until we want them to fully go submerged. So in here, we want to click on our animated sprite 2D, go back to animation here, and we want to hit the plus sign here and you call method. I guess we don't need to click on that. We can click on it here. So let's hit plus sign call method on the animated sprite 2D. Let's right click here at 0, insert a key, and we want to play that animated sprite. And then let's come to 4 seconds. And down here, we can make this snap by 1 second here and then click this so that we can apply snapping to this timeline. So it snaps at 1 second intervals. So we're right on the 4 seconds here. Let's turn visible off and then keyframe that. And we can create a reset track as well. That's fine. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Let's call a method on the animated sprite 2D2. Insert a keyframe at 0 and we'll play. And if we don't put anything in this play here, it'll just take the default animated sprite 2D animation, whatever's default, it'll play that. So we don't actually need to put anything in the argument here. And we can come to 4 seconds here, click on this animated sprite 2D, go back to the animation tab, turn visible off and keyframe that. And let's call a method on the animated sprite 2D3. Go to 0 seconds on the timeline, insert a key, we're going to play, and go to 4 seconds here, click on the animated sprite 2D3, open the animation tab again, turn visible off and keyframe that. And then at the end here, we will, with 4 seconds on the timeline, we will call a method on the reemerge timer. And right click insert key there. We will call start on the reemerge timer once the submerge animation is finished. So now we can do animation new. We can do reemerge. And this is going to be 4 seconds. And let's call a method on the animated sprite 2D. And we're going to insert a key here and do play backwards. So this is going to play our animation in reverse. And right at the beginning here, click on our animated sprite 2D here, go back to the animation tab and do visible is true and keyframe that. So we'll turn visible back true and then we'll play that animation backwards to reemerge. So let's do that with the other two animated sprite 2Ds. And if I was smart, I probably would have added all of these animated sprite 2Ds into one. It'd be a little less work, but this way works as well. And if you wanted to have multiple, if you wanted to have different lengths of turtles, then setting it up this way would be a little easier to do that. So let's turn visible, keyframe that on the animated sprite 2D2, and then add another call method track on the sprite animated sprite 2D3. And insert a key, play backwards here. Click on this, open the animation tab back up, turn visible on and keyframe that. And then let's call method one more time on the submerge timer. Let's make sure we go to 4 seconds here and then add a keyframe at 4 seconds and we will start the submerge timer once we fully reemerge. And let's come into reset here and make sure that visible is on the reset track on all of these. So they should be default on visible when we start. So now when the submerge timer times out, we can simply do animation player dot play submerge. And when the reemerge timer times out, we can do animation player dot play reemerge. Now we're missing one thing on submerge, on the submerge animation. When we're fully submerged, we want to disable this collision shape 2D. Let's go to 4 seconds out. And then with the collision shape 2D here, let's turn disabled on on the submerge animation. So when we're fully submerged, we're turning that collision shape off. And then when we reemerge, right at the beginning, we will turn disabled off and keyframe that. So then when we reemerge, our collision shape is enabled again. So that should be all it takes to submerge and reemerge here on the turtles. So let's test this out. So turtles are submerging and then they instantly reemerge. That's not what we want. So why is that? That's probably because on all these animated sprite 2Ds, we have autoplay enabled on them. So let's turn autoplay off and looping off on all of these. Okay, let's try that again. Okay. So now they're waiting. Okay, there we go. It took a little while, but now they're submerging. And then this should reemerge after 4 seconds. There he goes. He reemerges. So let's test it out if we're on a turtle that submerges. We should die. Okay, submerging, and he fully submerges, and we don't die. Now, why is that? Turn debug visible collision shapes on. And let's have the turtles submerge a little faster because they're taking quite a while to submerge here. So it's 1 to 4 seconds on the submerge. So when these turtles submerge, the collision shape should go disabled. And it doesn't look like it is. So let's take a look at why that is. Click on the animation player here. Submerge. Right at the end of submerge, disabled should be turned true. And then the reset timer disabled is off. By default, we want this to be on. By default on the reset. And then here, disabled should be false by default. Okay, so on the reset timer, on the reset track, make sure disabled is false, and then on your collision shape 2D, your disabled should start off as being false. So it's off, then we sync, and it's not turning off. Okay. Let me go ahead and investigate that real quick. Okay, as soon as I turned the recording off, I realized what was happening. We're disabling and enabling the wrong collision shape 2D. We actually don't care about this collision shape 2D. We care about the collision shape 2D under the area 2D here. So under our reset track, let's remove this track. And under our reemerge animation, let's remove this track. And under our submerge animation, remove this track. So the collision shape that we want to be enabling and disabling is the one under the area 2D. So on submerge at the end, at 4 seconds here, let's disable this collision shape, because this is the one that's detecting whether Frogger's on the turtle or not, and then reemerge at beginning of reemerge, we will disable that. And let's go to our reset timer, our reset tracked animation, and set disabled off to default. And then make sure disabled is turned off at the start here. So let's go ahead and test that out. Now we're actually disabling and enabling the correct collision shape 2D. So there we go. And now they're disabling. And then when they reemerge, they're enabling. There we go. We can go back to debug and turn visible collision shapes off there. And let's go back here for the submerge timer. We can do 3 to 9 seconds. I had it at 10 seconds, but 10 seconds seemed like a little long. 9 seconds is good. 3 to 9 seconds on that. And there we go. We have turtles submerging and reemerging. And that's the last bit of gameplay that we have. So next we'll set up UI and the game logic and sound effects, and we'll be done with this project.